right, welcome back to Squawk Box. A batch of disappointing jobs reports could have a major impact on the election's outcome. Tomorrow's data is another focal point. But joining us right now to talk about this, former Virginia Governor Jim Gilmore. He is a surrogate for Mitt Romney. Governor Gilmore is now the head of the Free Congress Foundation. Also joining us, CNBC contributor and former Pennsylvania Governor Ed Rendell. Governor Rendell is the author of a new book called A Nation of Wusses: How America's Leaders Lost the Guts to Make Us Great. And gentlemen, welcome to both of you. Governor Gilmore, I know what you may be thinking about these numbers and how it may play for your candidate, but Governor Rendell, I'd like to get your take on how the president takes these numbers and makes a case for re-election.
Well, I think the key for the president is private sector growth. As you know, we've had increase in private sector jobs the last 26 straight months. When he took over as president, we were losing 750,000 jobs a month. We've been gaining jobs regularly ever since. The economy has certainly turned. It hasn't turned as strongly as all of us would wish, but nonetheless, it's a good trend line. And I listened to the last segment, and it's the loss of government jobs at the state and local level that are creating a problem. I think that's going to turn around, and I'm basing it on Pennsylvania. My successor, Tom Corbett, predicted in his budget address back in February that there would be at the end of the year a significant deficit in the $300-400 million range. It looks like the figures are going to come out, and Pennsylvania is going to have run a $300, maybe even $500 million surplus, which will allow government to start doing very judiciously, but a little bit more of spending, which I think will have a positive effect on the economy and on employment.
Governor Rendell, your point is a fair one about the government jobs that have been lost, but private sector job growth is below expectations, and there are people who are now saying that the numbers we've seen indicate that this is not just a give back from the warm winter, that this is another spring slump for the third year running, and that's got to be a huge concern.
Well, it is a concern, and I do think we need, and I want to take this for the moment out of the election year politics, but it's hard. I think we need strong and decisive action. We need to go on, and you've heard me say this, Becky, a significant 10-year program to rebuild this nation's infrastructure. It's the best producer of well-paying jobs that we could do. We need to do Simpson Bowles, and if I were the president, I'd call Congress back and say, we're not leaving this summer until we do Simpson Bowles, get rid of this deficit, revitalize and re-energize the markets, the Wall Street, the national and international economy. I think we need some strong action, and I think the only way we're going to get it is if we can put the politics aside, which is awfully hard these next 5 months.
Governor Gilmore?
Well, no, I think the politics is about selecting new leadership for the United States of America in a time of crisis. What we're seeing from these reports today is an increasing decline of our opportunities, a decline of our economy. People are out there trying to find jobs. Young people are trying to get their career started, and this isn't working. And it's time for new leadership. The president has said in his budget that he wants to increase taxes on investment. What we've got to do is a tax reform in order to get investment moving again and get this jobs going. What we're seeing right now is a growth of the United States economy below 2%. The historic average in this country is 3.2. If you have a 3.2 growing economy, then you begin to get exciting opportunities and people doing things and starting businesses. But what's going on right now is that we're not seeing that kind of leadership out of the president in Washington, and that's what's necessary. Let's take Simpson Bowles. He could have done Simpson Bowles, and even Simpson Bowles has some tax increases in it that's going to depress the economy. But there are a forward-looking motion. Governor Romney has put forward some ideas about a tax reform which is going to enhance investment. But what we're seeing out of the White House and out of the president is a hostility towards the business community, towards people who create jobs. You can't permit that. You've got to have a change of attitude and a change of policy, and that's why you've got to have President Romney come into the campaign, into the White House this year.
Although, Governor Gilmore, no matter what happens in the election, there's probably still going to be two parties in Washington, and they're going to have to come up with some sort of compromise on some level, correct?
I've thought about this a lot, and I've been in public office myself, as you know, and what we have to do is really go to the people of the United States and ask them to take charge of their own economy and to say we've got to put new leadership in order to get things going. People in both parties in the Congress are going to want to get reelected, and we need to make the litmus test whether or not you get the economy moving. And that means that you have to have a tax reform that enhances investment, not declines investment. That means you've got to have opportunities for people to put more money back into the economy. Instead, what are we seeing? We're seeing attacks constantly, class warfare type of rhetoric, criticism of people who are being successful, criticism of Governor Romney because he participated in the private sector. Even my good friend Ed Rendell, who I love appearing with, by the way, he himself said he was very disappointed by these kinds of attacks on Bain because it sets an overall tone, Becky, of what we're going to do in this country moving forward.
Governor Rendell, I heard you try to jump in there before.
Well, Becky, I appreciate Jim's compliment, but let me just say that Jim and Governor Romney, and I love Governor Romney personally, but they're trying to rewrite history. This business that if we increase revenue, somehow that's going to depress investments. Jim, you remember Bill Clinton raised taxes on the top 2% of Americans, and we created 23.5 million jobs in the next 7 years, even though Republicans at that time said, this is going to kill the economy, it's going to drive us back into recession. George Bush cut taxes, and following that, we had the 5 worst years of job growth in the last 50 or 60 years. So let's let the American people know the facts.
No, but the jobless rate under both administrations was the same.
Yeah, but the creation of jobs is what we're looking for.
You're talking about job creation. The jobless rate was the same for the 8 years of the Bush and Clinton administration.
We need to create jobs, and you don't create jobs by cutting taxes.
Well, it's hard to create. You don't need to create that many when you're already at 5%. I mean, it's nice to be at 5%.
If you look.
You're not going to punt on the private equity remark from Governor Gilmore, are you, Ed?
I'll be happy to answer that, but more importantly, your viewers should know in the last 60 years, our top 5 years of job growth occurred when the marginal tax rate was at 70%. Our top 10 when the marginal tax rate was 50%. Our lowest 4 of those 5, the marginal tax rate was in the 30s. So there is no correlation. This idea that if you increase taxes on the job creators, it's going to hurt job growth, the facts don't bear that out, and you've got to understand that. And let me talk about Bain Capital. I was disappointed in the tone of the ads when they had an individual calling Governor Romney and Bain vampires. There's no place for that. Just like when Rick Perry said it was vulture capitalism, a Republican. There's no place for that. But yes, Governor Romney's experience at Bain is fair game because he said that's one of the main reasons why he thinks he can take over the American economy. So I think everyone should look at that experience and see what it did in terms of job creation. Remember, Governor Romney didn't say he created wealth. He certainly did that for Bain investors. He said he created jobs, and it's fair game to look at that.
All right, Governors, I'm sorry, we are out of time. I love having both of you here. Governor Rendell,
Becky,
I have to read your book.
Just for the record, you and Joe are non-wusses.
Well, you know,
Hold on. Are you then suggesting I'm a wuss?
No, Andrew, I don't know you well enough, but I know these two, and they are non-wusses.
You might not be a wuss. I'm dying to get your book, and Governor Rendell, we want you to come back to talk about this.
Absolutely. It's going to be a long 5 months.
A nation of wusses, and we are going to have you back. Governor Gilmore, thank you very much, sir. Both of you will see you again very soon.